Hello and welcome to the Get Creative Podcast, the podcast for creatives by creatives. I'm Evan Schmidt, and my guest today is James Rolfe. He's a filmmaker and the man behind Cinemassacre Productions. You may also know him as the Angry Video Game Nerd. All right, so James, thanks for coming on the show today. What's something really important that you've learned throughout your life?
Well, as far as creative lessons go, I'd say to just follow it. That's the first thing. For me, I never really put much thought into it. It's kind of weird when you think back, how did I become interested in doing this thing? Because I'm into filmmaking and it's a very collaborative art. But if you think about who I was as a person back then, I was not a very social person. I always felt that was something I had a deficit, some kind of something to fill, like, something missing in my life. Was that I always had a hard time trying to make friends, and I was just really shy. And going into filmmaking is kind of like the opposite of that. You surround yourself with people, and maybe that was something that I didn't go to find it. It came to find me to help me out in that area. So, filmmaking has definitely enhanced my life. So I guess the advice is to just go with your gut instinct, to just follow what it is, even if it doesn't sound like something feasible. It's something that it came to you naturally. And then the question is how far to follow it. Like, is there a point you get where it's like you've sacrificed too much to pursue this art? So I think there is sometimes a limit, especially when you have a domestic life, but that's not to say to stop when it gets hard, because I think there's always going to be some kind of resistance. There's going to be some kind of test always happening. Your art is always going to be tested, and you're always going to be sort of reminded, like, hey, this is a really implausible plan that you have here, and are you sure you want to do this? And you always have to keep going forward and pushing against the resistance, because I think the moment something becomes easy, you're not pushing the envelope anymore. It's just there always needs to be that resistance for some reason. But then, of course, there's times, like I said, where you've sacrificed everything, you've given everything you have, and there's sort of a point to be content with it also. It should be an ongoing journey, but the thing that I would like to tell myself when I was young that I didn't realize was that while I was dreaming about going to LA to shoot movies, and I was like, I don't know what I had visualized, but I just imagined myself on a big movie set with all these actors and all this crew, and it was like this big thing, and I'm like, I'm going to be this big movie director. But really what I wanted to tell myself is I had it all along. As long as you're doing your art, then you're already there. And I realized that the bigger this thing could get, the more messy it gets, and the more chaotic it becomes, and it invades your life. It takes over your life. And really, I liked myself the best when I was humble in my backyard with my friends making these films. So there is a point where maybe you're pushing it too much. It's like, as long as you're doing what you enjoy and you're able to pay your rent and everything, then you're there. You got it. So just keep doing what you love. So that's pretty much it for me.
That's some wonderful advice. I know a previous guest on the show, Becky Mancuso, she's a marketing person in Pittsburgh. She said there's always the grass is always greener syndrome, and kind of you got to pull yourself back and just be content with what you have, because like you said, the bigger it grows, the more problematic it could be, kind of more money, more problems. kind of.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can relate, because as a teenager I was a filmmaker too, a documentary filmmaker, and yeah, you as long as you start creating, it's kind of like when you're a child in grade school and you have your canvas and you have your finger paints, you're already doing it. You're there. And it's just, whether you're doing it in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or a small town in Washington State or Los Angeles. Like, yeah, it's interesting. I've never thought of it that way.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, thanks for putting it that way. So what are you working on right now, and what are you excited about? What keeps you challenged?
Oh, well, I'm always,
Or what challenges you?
yeah. I'm always working on new film projects, but the more elaborate ones take a lot longer, so they take a long time behind the scenes. But everything I do is always different. I never make the same exact project twice. But there's the web series which take priority. They're sort of like uh, the Angry Video Game Nerd is the main web series. That's the most popular one, and that's basically critiquing old video games in a humorous way. And that is something that I've always tried to keep as steady as possible. But I'm also doing a lot of other things at once, so um, that's still the main show. But I try to keep it fresh. I try to keep every episode different, which means not being able to put them out as often. So now I put them out like I put more time into making them to make them better. So that's pretty much it. So just from project to project, like whatever I'm working on at the time, I just, enjoy it.
Yeah, that's yeah. You have to at this point. You're a pioneer of YouTube, and yeah, it's so cool to hear that you're still finding something new, finding a new path to go down, and you still love it. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Where can people find you, and if they want to connect and see your stuff, where can they find that?
Cinemassacre.com is pretty much all about me. If you dig into that site, you could find all my back catalog and everything. But to keep up with the current stuff, the YouTube channel is Cinemassacre, the Twitter is Cinemassacre, and even the Facebook I think is Cinemassacre. So that's what it all is.
You got your lock on those channels early.
Yeah.
Might have to buy the Snapchat name.
Yeah.
Well, cool. James Rolfe, thank you for coming on my show today and getting creative.
Oh, sure.
That's it for another episode of Get Creative. You can find more information about my guest in the show notes. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes and Stitcher so that new episodes magically appear. And tell a friend about this show. For more information about me, just go to evanschmidt.com. Thank you for listening. Now go get creative.